viewers. If you click the video link, you're here to see me talk about these two flashlights that you see in front of you, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. I am going to break this video up into a couple different sections, so if you check the timeline down below, if there's something in particular you're looking for. The way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to do an unboxing for each of these lights, and then individually I'm going to talk about each one of them, and then we'll kind of bring them back together and do a little bit of a compare and contrast, and kind of give you my thoughts and opinions on each one of them. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, so before we unbox this thing, I'll go ahead and show you what everything is that it gives you on the outside here. So again, this is the OD green version. That is my favorite color, so that's why I went ahead and picked that. There are two different options here. You've got the cool white and neutral white, so they mark which one it is that you have. The back here, the Amazon sticker is covering up the information there, so I'll go ahead and post it here so you can see what it actually says. This side's just got your applications with some little cartoony graphics. So let's go ahead, and the bottom has a little safety seal sticker on it, and the top has you gotta peel this off to get it open. So let's go ahead and do that and see what we've got inside. So it says slide open. So just the whole thing pulls out. So they do have some information here. It says it ships in lockout mode, so before the first use, you gotta press and hold the center button for about 1 second until it turns on. It says charge it fully before you turn it on. So we're gonna go ahead and do that, but let's go ahead and see what's in here first. So obviously we've got our user manual. We've got our proprietary magnetic charger, which we'll talk about that. And then we flip this over, and here's our flashlight. This thing's actually pretty hefty for its size. Here's our light. I'm not going to turn it on because they said to go ahead and charge it first, so I want to get that done. But I wanted to show you what was in the packaging first and what it looked like. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing charged up, shall we? All right, so here we have the Surefire Stiletto Pro. The packaging is a little bit different. This is the type of packaging where the manufacturer doesn't actually want you to get into the product, seemingly. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the outside of this one before we crack into it, take a look at it, and then I get it charged up so I can start doing some testing so I can give you an honest review. So we'll just take a close-up look at the packaging here. You can see all the information that's provided on it. It does come supplied with a mini USB charger. I thought this thing was USB-C, but I was incorrect. So here's the back of the packaging. So I'm going to go ahead and cut into this thing off camera so you guys don't see me struggle with it, and then we'll come back and take a look at it real quick. Well, that actually wasn't bad at all. I cut the top off. This peeled right off, so that made it super easy. A little plastic layer here. We've got the flashlight. They give you a little Allen wrench here with a star on the end of it. We've got our miniature mini USB cable. This thing's pretty short. We've got our instruction manual here. And then we've also got torque specs here for handgun weapon light mounts. I don't know that I'm going to be mounting this thing to a handgun, so I don't know that that's actually important. Again, we just have the instructions here. It tells you what the different buttons do, each of the modes, what the color indicators on the lights do. And then of course they've got their packaging with all of their other gear, and most importantly it comes with a sticker. So it just shows you some of their other products. And we've got our light here. I did not realize the belt clip on this was reversible. So here is our light. Again, our cable and Allen wrench. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing charged up, do some testing with it, and then I'll be able to come back with my honest opinion on it after having used it, rather than just initial impressions of looking at it, because you can look at these things online all day and get the same thing from just having it sit here in my hand. All right, so now that you've seen this thing unboxed, let's go ahead and talk about it and what it is. So this is the Arkfeld by Olight. There are several different models available. This one is the cool white version with the green laser. You do have the option of having a light with the warm white, which is kind of more the yellowish light instead of the kind of whitish blue, super strong LED color, which is the one that you see here. And then also, instead of a laser, you have the option of having a UV light. So I can't tell you what you might or might not need either one of those for. I didn't think I'd need a laser pointer, but it has come in handy a couple times. Maybe if you have a cat or something, that could be also helpful, or you need it for some kind of signaling device, you're teaching some sort of presentation that may require it, or perhaps you have a significant other that can't quite see things and you're tired of getting up to help, so you're trying to help point them out. I don't know. So upon first inspection, when I opened this thing, it's super tiny, and when I picked it up, it was a little bit deceptive on the weight. It's not super duper heavy. Let's go ahead and throw it on the scale just so you can see. Got it set to ounces. So it's 3.1 ounces, which again is not very heavy, but again, it's kind of deceptive. So the body of this thing is actually milled out of aluminum, so it's one solid block, and the machine comes in and shaves out all the parts that aren't needed, so they can put the guts in there and attach the button and the charging port and all that stuff. So it is one solid piece of construction. It's not something that you're worried about is going to crack or break. This thing is pretty tough. They do come in multiple color varieties. I picked the OD green option because that is my favorite color. So that is one thing that could sway you if you prefer specific colors, or for whatever reason that you may want something in a specific color other than just tactical black. That is something that it's available. It does only use one button to function, so this basically does everything. It turns it on, turns it off, changes brightness levels, locks it out, unlocks it, which is kind of neat and handy. You can use it one-handed. It is ambidextrous. The body shape on it is a little bit different than most of the flat flashlights you'll see. It does have kind of a cutout here for the pocket clip. This pocket clip is not reversible at all, so anytime you put it in any sort of pocket, it has to go with the butt end up. I know one thing that many people may complain about or dislike is that it does use a proprietary magnetic charger. This is not a button that's on the bottom of it, so you can't do your thumb access there to turn it on and off. This is the only button that functions the flashlight. So the charger that you get from Olight, it works on various different models of their flashlights. It is magnetic. When you plug it on there, it snaps in pretty good. There's a light on it that will turn red while it's charging, and then it will turn green when it's done. You just pop it off of there and you're good to go. So again, that may be a downside to some people. For me, I kind of like that better. I think it helps probably with the waterproof rating. Both the flashlights I'm talking about today are IPX7 rated, which means they can be at least under 1 meter of water for 30 minutes. So you don't really have to worry about water intrusion. That's another good thing about this being milled, is that the only seam here is basically where the end of the light comes in, and where this back plate is on here, you can see this line that goes all the way around, so they can put the guts in the battery and the flashlight. Anyway, but with the charger, it doesn't have one of those little rubber flaps that you have to worry about getting ripped off, or maybe it's not pressed in all the way. I'm not a big fan of those things, especially if this is something you plan on carrying all the time and getting a lot of use out of. You're going to be charging it and taking that flappy cover thing on and off a lot. There's a possibility, again, for it getting ripped off. You carry it around in your pocket, it gets lint and crud in there, maybe it doesn't seal all the way, it rains, you sweat a lot, water gets in there, and then your light stops working and you don't know why. So that helps keep it nice and solid. I like that. Also, the magnetic base, you might not think is that great of a feature. However, if you need to stick it somewhere, let's say you break down on the side of the road in the middle of the night, you need to get in the engine compartment of your vehicle, maybe you need two hands to monkey around with whatever it is you're doing, this will stick right underneath the hood. Just slap it up there, the magnet will hold it in place. The magnet is strong enough to hold this thing completely horizontal under its own weight, as long as it has a flat surface to stick to. If you try and stick it to something round like a pipe, it's not going to have enough attraction there and stability, so it will not stick. So as long as it's a flat surface, a circuit breaker panel door, or again the underside of your car hood, whatever you can think of to stick it, if you need to put it somewhere just to get some sort of illumination. So how do we function this thing with this one single button? So as right now it is off. If I press the button one time, it goes into low. You have to press and hold and it will cycle to the next one, and you just let go when you're ready to use it. So we're gonna hold it and then you're gonna see it change modes. I think I had it on medium when I first turned it on. So that is one thing with this, is that it does have a memory. So whatever mode it was in when you last used it, when you turn it back on again, it'll be on that same mode, whether you turn it off on low, medium, or high. So again, that's low, medium, high. It is kind of quick, so you have to kind of, as soon as it gets to the one you want, you let go, and then to turn it off, you just press it again. So again, I put this in my pocket, and then I say, oh, you know what, I need to look at something again, pull it back out, boom, it's still on the same setting I used it on. So that is a nice feature. There is a turbo mode. If you double click, it goes up to 1,000 lumens, which is pretty dang bright, and I have not had too many needs to use that brightness setting. Double click again to turn it off, or just single press and to turn it off totally. And then when you turn it back on, it will not be in turbo mode, it will be in the last setting you had it on. There is a strobe mode. If you click it 3 times in rapid succession, it will strobe. You turn it off. If you want to lock out the flashlight, you press and hold this button. It'll kick on moonlight mode and then shut off. You do have a battery gauge here with this little light, so if I were to have this in lockout mode and I press the button, this little single red light will come on that basically says, it's in lockout mode, it's not going to work. In order to get lockout mode to turn off, you just press and hold the button again. Again, your battery indicator will come up, 4 bars is full, and then it'll slowly go down each 25% increment that you have left on your battery. Moonlight mode will also come on when you hold the button down while it is off. So if we turn it off and we hold that, it comes on. It's very, very low light. If you need minimal navigation light or even signaling in the dark or whatever purpose you may need that for. And then again, single press, turn it back off. To operate the laser, you have this little wheel here that has 2 functions. It either has the flashlight or the laser indicated, and you just flip over to that and turn it on like normal. And then if you can even just switch while it's on to flashlight or back to laser as needed, and then same thing, turn that off. There is just one function with the laser. It's either on or it's off. There is no strobing or different brightness levels with that. So what do I think of this particular light? I think it's absolutely great. Again, the size, the weight is perfect. I actually carry this in my shirt pocket. I've had this thing for a couple months now, and I've carried it in various different locations. It's had the perfect amount of light for any situation I've needed. I've not pulled this thing out, tried to use it, and said, man, I wish this thing was brighter. This is not a heavy-duty search work light. I'm not doing search and rescue missions in the middle of the woods for multiple hours at a time. It's just, again, an EDC pocket light that I carry around and I use for odd things, such as, again, I get home late at night, need to check the mailbox, pull it out, and it works absolutely perfect. Or working on little projects in the dark. Again, it has more than enough light on any one of its given settings that allows me to see everything that I need. So the camera does not do a spectacular job of doing, again, what your eyes are going to perceive. And then again, my eyes in the dark with a light is going to perceive things differently than yours. I tried to capture the best that I could with the camera. I went outside and cycled through all the modes. So you can see that here, going from basically pitch black to each mode and what you can see from it, along with a reference photo from daytime, so you can tell exactly what you would be looking at if it wasn't dark out. So again, I think this is a great light. It's a great addition to have something to throw in your pocket. Again, the times that I did carry it in my pants pocket, it is very slim and does not take up a lot of room. With it in my pocket, I easily reach around it and grab my keys out, anything that I needed. The finish on this thing, I thought originally that it was anodized. I don't know what the finish is. As long as I've been carrying it around, you can see there is a little bit of wear and tear on here. I have seen pictures of other people's flashlights that are just absolutely mangled. Finish will come off, so it's not absolutely perfect. It's not going to look pristine, especially if it's something that you're using regularly. Expect it to have some wear and tear on it, which is absolutely fine with me. As long as it continues to do everything that it has been doing, I will be happy with it, and I will continue to carry this with me every single day in my pocket. Again, I carry it in my shirt pocket in my uniform at work, and I don't even notice that it's there. It's not so heavy and bulky that it's kind of pulling away from my body and making my pocket stick out and look like I have a bunch of junk in there. It fits perfectly in my hand. The functions are very easy to use, either left or right-handed, it doesn't matter. I have not really had much of a need for the laser yet. However, I'm sure a time may come up where it'll be handy. So the battery life on this thing has been as advertised. I have not turned it on and let it run and walked away just to test it, one go to see if it will actually last however many minutes or hours or days that it says it will run. It's just been kind of an average, using it off and on. I've used it probably when I didn't necessarily need it, but I just wouldn't turn the light on in a room when I went in there at night, and I would just use the flashlight to navigate and make sure that it provided the illumination that I needed. And again, it has done everything that I've asked of it. So not bad for $90. It's a very solid light, very easy to pocket and carry in your hand and operate. It does not get very hot when you're using it, even if it's on for extended periods of time at a high brightness. I have noticed that it does not get hot. And so far, I have not had this thing click on in my pocket, which is surprising. You figure something would press against that button long enough to kick it on, but that has not happened, especially considering the button faces in. I have not, again, had any major issues with any sort of heat or anything from this, so that's a really nice feature, especially being as small as it is and as close as your hand is to the bezel here. You figure you'd get some radiating heat. But again, that has not been an issue, so that is nice, and I'm very happy with this light. Olight is a Chinese company, so that may be a big turnoff to a lot of people, but it does the job. And again, it's small, it's light, compact, has all the features that I need from it. That's just my 2 cents on this light. So next we'll go ahead and move on to the Surefire. All right, so again, this is the Surefire Stiletto Pro. There is just a regular version, not the Pro. I believe it's a little bit smaller and has a polymer body. This one is made out of forged aluminum. It only comes in tactical black. It is this different little coffin shape, so it has a little bit wider of a footprint here than the other flashlight. The pocket clip on this is reversible, so when you put it in your pocket, you can carry it with the bezel up or down, which is a nice little handy feature. Also comes in handy in an instance of, let's say you want to use this as a headlamp. With the pocket clip in this orientation, this is how it came in the package. I did not change this. You could clip it on the bill of your hat and actually have a headlamp available, so you could use this thing hands-free. It has a couple buttons on the top here. This is the function button that turns the light on and off. This is your programming button for a couple various features that this flashlight offers. And then you've got your little rubber flap door here for your mini USB charger. I was a little disappointed to learn that this thing was not USB-C. Figure the technology was new enough that they'd be able to incorporate that in there. A lot of people are kind of starting to phase out of the mini USB, so you don't really have a lot of those cords laying around. Speaking of the cords, the other issue that I have is the cord that came with it is super tiny. And most wall outlets these days are a little bit farther from the ground than this, so unless you have some sort of outlet on a desk or a countertop somewhere where you can set it to charge, you're going to kind of be dangling this thing by basically the charging port and the cord itself hanging out of the wall. So not a huge fan of that. Again, like I mentioned with the Olight, I'm not a huge fan of these little rubber doors, especially if this is supposed to be a heavy-duty light that you're going to carry around and beat up and use all the time. I don't know how long that's going to last. I haven't, again, used it hard enough or long enough to make that an issue. Maybe one day it'll come up. So the way we function this thing is it only has 3 settings. It's got low, medium, and high. You just press this button each time that you want to change the setting or turn it on. So we press it and we've got low, medium, and high. If you wait too long in between presses, so if I were to just sit here for a second or two and then press the button, it'll actually turn it off, so you have to start all over again. There is no memory function on this, so every time you turn this light on, you have to go either from low, medium, or high, or again, you have a programming function here so that it will turn on and go high, medium, low. So if that's something that you're interested in, that is available. This one does have a button on the tailpiece here, and you can use that program button to change it. Default out of the package, it's set to you have to hold the button and the light will stay on, and when you release the button, the light will turn off. That is also how you access the strobe feature. You just rapidly click the button and it'll switch to strobe, but you have to continue holding it, and when you let go, it will turn off. I have reprogrammed it so that this is just a toggle, so when I press it, it turns on, and then I press it again to turn it off. You only have access to high mode, which is the 1000 lumen setting, by doing the tail switch here, whether it is on constant hold or toggle. It's only ever going to be on high. So if you want low or medium setting, you must use this button here. That's really the only programming features that I am aware of for using this button. There is a lockout feature as well, so in order to access that, you must press and hold the regular function button plus the tail button. The light will kind of flick on for a split second, and then you'll see that little indicating light blink a couple times. Now, if I press the button, nothing is happening, and in order to turn that off, all I have to do is just press those two buttons again, and it will instantly be ready to rock and roll. You don't have to press and hold it again. Now, unlike the Olight, I have carried this in my same pocket. I've alternated locations. I've done basically the same thing with each of them. I've carried them for the same amount of time, rotated through them, used them for various different purposes. Twice now while this thing has been in my pocket. Again, I have not changed this clip, so it was bezel up. Somehow, I don't know that these two buttons were able to actually be pressed at the same time, two different times. One time, the only reason I knew it was on was because I walked by a mirror and saw light shining out of my pocket. The second time I noticed because my legs started to get really warm, and I kind of looked down and realized that it was on. So it's odd that that happened twice, because it seems like it's a pretty specific press to get both of these at the same time, but again, it just takes a second to hit them and they will turn the lock feature off. So perhaps carrying it with the bezel down might help alleviate some of that, since this will be kind of free floating in space and have less likelihood of something hitting that at the same time this button's being pressed. I have not tried that. I kind of, again, preferred in this orientation in the event that I do want to use this as some sort of a headlamp, or even clip it on lapels for a uniform shirt, and you'll have it pointing forward so that you can use it. There is a warning on the bezel end here where it says hot surface, and they are making sure that you know that that gets hot, because this thing definitely does get really warm, especially on the high setting. It gets warm really fast, and I'll talk about that when I do the side-by-side and kind of the pros and cons and comparing and contrasting these two lights together. So let's go ahead and throw this thing on the scale real quick. It is heavier than the Olight at 4.3 ounces rather than 3.1. So again, not a huge difference. But you know the old saying, ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain, right? It is, this thing is heavy duty. I mean, it's made by Surefire, so just the name alone, you hear that, you see it, you know that this is gonna be a solid quality piece of gear. It does clock in at over $200, however, which is kind of a lot to bite off, and it was actually kind of difficult for me to suck it up and go ahead and purchase this thing to actually carry it around and use it and review, because that is a lot of money for just a small handheld pocket flashlight. I do have a lot of Surefire's weapon lights and tape switches on my long guns, and I absolutely love every single one of them, and they do the job and they work great. This thing is super bright. Even on low, this thing typically has more light than I ever need for anything. You can see here, again, going from basically pitch black to each of the three brightness settings outside with the reference photo for daytime. So again, this thing puts out an astronomical amount of light for being such a small, compact handheld flashlight. Again, with this one, the same as the Olight, the battery life on this thing is pretty spot on with what they have advertised. Again, I did not turn it on and walk away and time it until the battery ran out. That's just from basic use here and there, charging it up and then trying it again and utilizing it whether I needed it or not, just kind of messing around and again testing it out. So let's go ahead and bring the Olight back in here, and we'll kind of do our side-by-side compare and contrast. All right, so right off the bat, if you even go online and do any sort of research or just look up and attempting to purchase either one of these lights, the biggest factor you're going to notice is the price. And again, the Olight is approximately $90. The Surefire is going to be over $200 depending on where you're buying it from. It might be $220, $230, possibly even higher. My absolute initial thoughts on that is that the Olight, for the price versus what you get for each of these, I can already tell you, in my personal opinion, I feel like blows the Surefire out of the water. Even if these were both $90, I'm not sure that I would say, you know, go Surefire over the Olight. Again, I'm not a fan of the mini USB and these little rubber flappy doors. Again, this is just my personal opinion. If you don't care about that stuff, you're not worried about it, you're a hardcore Surefire fanboy and you're already hating me for saying that, That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion just like I am mine. Again, I'm not a fan of that. This is going to be a heavy duty light that I plan on carrying for years and years. I don't want to have to worry about this little rubber door failing on me. The other huge thing that I have noticed while utilizing either one of these lights is the heat. This Surefire heats up absolutely ridiculously fast and gets super hot, especially running it on the high setting. So I do not have a fancy FLIR camera that can pinpoint heat and show you the exact temperature changes in each one of these lights. However, I did have a friend that allowed me to borrow one of his Steiner thermal optics. So I've got a little video clip here that shows a side-by-side comparison with the lights. You can tell by looking at it which one's which. I set them both on the 1000 lumen setting, and you can see just how fast the Surefire heats up. It is almost instant. Now, given that this entire body of the Surefire light is made out of metal, we all know that heat radiates. If you've ever picked up a cast iron pan that's been on the stove for any amount of time, that handle will burn you even though it's not in direct contact with the burner. Now, metals are kind of weird when you're looking at them with a thermal device. So in the video clip, you see just the tip of this thing turning that cherry red. It does not show the heat that quite rapidly starts coming down the rest of the handle of the flashlight here. Again, the metal's transferring the heat down, and the longer you have this thing running, the hotter it's going to get and the faster it's going to kind of creep down. And it will actually get to the point where I was outside just running around with the high setting. I was outside running around with my dogs in the dark, just playing with the flashlight, testing it out, and it actually got to a point where it was uncomfortable to hold because it was just getting hot. And again, I remember I said it turned on in my pocket, and it definitely alerted me that it was on because of how warm it got. In that clip, you could see the Olight. It started to kind of turn a little red on the corner, and I don't know if that was just some sort of reflection of the metal, because you could see the table in front of it. The light was actually heating up the table more than the body of the light. Now, this light is advertised that if it does start to heat up, that it will lower the output in order to kind of help dissipate some of that heat. I have not noticed, even running this thing in the 1000 lumen setting, which is its turbo mode, I have not noticed any uncomfortable heat. It'll get a little warm right around the very edge, but not anything that's, again, uncomfortable. As small as this thing is and as close as your hand is to the end when you're holding it, I have not noticed any sort of heat issues with it that, again, make it uncomfortable. So, and I'm just trying to think of a scenario where, let's say, again, you're broken down on the side of the road, your child or significant other is holding this light for you, and they've got it on, and they're pointing it, you know, of course in the wrong place, but they've got it on, and then their hands start getting hot and they don't want to hold it anymore, and now you're even more frustrated than you were dealing with whatever the issue was. This is not my firsthand experience, but I have heard people say that they have had their skin or clothing burned by this light because it did come on in their pocket. I am inclined to believe that, again, because of my own personal experiences with this thing turning on by itself in my pocket. So again, going over the pros and cons here, we've got our proprietary magnetic charger versus the micro USB connection. I would much rather have the magnetic one. Again, keep that outside more secure and more waterproof. These do both have the same waterproof setting, but I can assure you if I were to peel this thing up and throw it in the water that it would have some intrusion issues and cease to be a functioning flashlight, which would be a big issue for me, especially after swallowing the cost of purchasing it. Again, I love Surefire. I'm not trying to sit here and dump on their product, but when I do a direct comparison with something that is less than half the price and it does exactly what I need it to do in direct comparison, neither one of these lights I had issues with the brightness. The Surefire, I will tell you, absolutely a crisp beam. I did a direct comparison inside as well as outside, so you can see that video clip here. where it's kind of showing you, again, each of the settings pointing down a hallway with a close wall in front of you, and then pointing them at the ceiling to help illuminate the room that way. And the Surefire, I'll tell you, all day is going to win when it comes to brightness and crispness of the light. However, again, the light that is offered by the Arkfeld, I did not ever have any issues. I never once used this thing and was like, man, I really wish this was just a little bit brighter in this situation. I could use some more light. If that was the case, I just kicked it up to the next setting, utilized it, and then bumped it back down to whatever other setting I needed it for another time. So in conclusion, do I feel like one is better than the other? Not necessarily. They both, again, have their own roles. However, comparing them as just an EDC, throw it in your pocket flashlight, the Olight is slimmer again, so when putting it in my pocket, when I have to reach past it to grab my keys, the Surefire definitely got in the way and was noticeably uncomfortable to reach around to get stuff out, whereas the Olight, I was able to do that easily and not even notice it. Carrying it in the shirt pocket, the Olight, I don't even notice it, I don't feel it, it does not pull away on my pocket. Because of the shape of the Surefire and the weight and the way it's distributed, when I put it in my pocket, it does pull away and it does kind of look sloppy. So not a good location to carry that. Definitely, if you're going to carry it, I would recommend in a pocket or maybe clip to some molly or in a backpack somewhere. Having the alternate option, do I need the laser? No. Is it nice to have multiple functions and options? Absolutely. There may come a time where I need it. Maybe I need to use it as a signaling device because I'm in trouble and I need to get somebody's attention. Do not shine lasers at aircraft unless there is some sort of emergency. Not a smart idea. You will get in trouble. So let me just throw that little disclaimer out there. I'm just telling you an alternate use that in an emergency you could use it for. So not having the reversible pocket clip, is that really a huge deal? Not really. Again, however, you would not be able to use this as a headlamp because of the way that the pocket clip is oriented. The light would be pointed back towards your face and that would absolutely not be helpful. So perhaps that's a ding against the Olight there. The fact that this light can only do 1,000 lumens for a limited amount of time, again, is not a big deal. I have not had many situations where that was required for extremely long lengths of time. However, comparing again the size, the quality, the construction of both of these lights, I'm going to give personally the win to the Olight. I can buy 2 of these flashlights and still have money left over to buy an extra charger if I wanted, to have one at work and one in the car and one at home versus the amount of money that it would cost for the Surefire. So again, definitely not dumping on Surefire. I have a lot of their products. I enjoy it. I know just by the name that it's going to be a quality product and that if there's an issue with it, I can contact them and get it fixed. However, in this particular market, there are also other EDC flashlights I know that people have reviewed. These two, however, are very similar in size. I know many people may mention the Nightcore or the Streamlight. However, those are a little bit longer and they also are not necessarily as easy to stick in some pockets as these two lights are. So that's why I just wanted to do a direct comparison of these, as well as because of the price difference that you're going to find between these two lights versus features. So again, I personally am going to give the win to Olight just because of the features that it offers. Again, I like green. This Surefire is not available in green. I like the option of having a little bit different laser. I like having the multiple different settings. It even has a lower setting than the Surefire. The Surefire is basically just bright all the time, and then it's just even brighter and then brighter plus. So I don't necessarily need to be blinded every time I work on a project. So I like having the option of having the little bit lower light settings available as well. I like the memory function on it. I don't want to have to keep cycling through brightness settings every time I turn the light on and then have to get to the right one, especially if it's perhaps in a situation where I need to do something quickly. I don't want to be blinded and then have to kind of tick the light down and then get back to what I was doing. Not having the thumb button on this light may be a big negative to some people. However, again, I feel like combating the water intrusion issue using the magnetic charger is kind of a big deal, and I will take that any day over not having a thumb switch, because theoretically you could still use this in one hand. You could hold it in this orientation and just use your pinky. I know that's maybe not ideal, it's not what you're used to, but I can easily do that if necessary. I don't need to necessarily have a tail switch. So hopefully you guys and girls found something useful in this video that maybe you haven't seen or known about or heard about from anybody else that's done these same reviews. Again, I am a fan of Surefire, but I think in this instance they're going to take the L for me. I will continue to carry and use both of these lights and just kind of see if maybe anything changes my mind here. Maybe in a week the Olight's going to just completely stop working. I don't know because it hasn't happened yet. So if that does happen, perhaps I'll do an updated review maybe after having them for a year or longer, and then we'll come back to the drawing board and see, or compare them to any other new lights that may be out in the market by that time. So hopefully you found something useful in this video. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. As always, I am open to constructive criticism or feedback. If there's anything I can do that'll make my videos better for you, please feel free to let me know at any time. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.